I know we're all short of time, and I guess we will have to break up, at least from here on the dais, as soon as the minister comes in. So I'm not going to talk much. I would prefer that you listen to the speakers, but I would like to say that this team that was brought together, thanks, you know, one can be very reliant on Reliance people. So I think his foresight and insight brought this team together. One is the one who sows the seed of education, gives it its nutrition, makes it grow as the major donor of the institution, the academic institution of the Somayas. Here we have someone who looks into this, offers further nutrition, makes it grow. I'm saying it because I'm talking of a neutral situation. And she puts in her own. As we say, the leader makes a difference, whether it is here, here, or anywhere else. So, and she is the one who participates in the product making. And then we have Prashant Bhai, who is the, his surname is kind of complicated, you know. And so Prashant uses the product. The seed has grown into a plant and he makes it sure that it grows into a tree. And what he ensures is grass does grow under his trees. Huh? It's not barren under that. So that's HR. So with these three components, I thought, how does skill and CSR come in? Of course, she would be the consumer of the CSR, the developer of the skill. He is the harvester, and this gentleman is two-in-one. He will be the one who will have his own CSR, of course, as the Somaya group. And how does he feed that into his own educational system, and how does he disperse that as far as the 2% that is supposed to be coming to the sector? So, friends, is it all right if we go in the same order, or ladies first? But then you're talking of her right in the middle of things. We'll start it. Yeah. So, Samir bhai. It's all right if you're normal. Now we don't have to go to the dais. Of course, in Gujarati, there is a saying that a teacher ne patiu to joiye. You know, pat, pencil, whatever you call it. But he's a teacher of different ways. Not a teacher, you know. School classroom में जाते नहीं है जनाब. जाते हैं but कम. पढ़ाते भी है, जितने हम लोग ने जिंदगी भर किया सर, आपने थोड़ा थोड़ा किया, और चीजें काफी की है. So anyway, Mr. Samir Somaya.
रूपा बहन नमस्कार. मंजू जी, प्रशांत खाम्बस वाडकर जी. I would like to thank Shri Prabodh Thakkar, Shri Vijay Sahu for inviting us and giving me this opportunity. The title of this session is Integrating Vocational Education and Higher Education, the Experiment. I think much of what we thought of saying has been said a lot in the past session. So I thought I'll maybe just give some anecdotes of how we see life in the work around us, the world around us, and then how that frames the kind of experiments that we continue to make in education. But Sandhu ji नहीं है, नहीं तो मुझे लगा उनकी इश्क की शायरी पर थोड़ा एक जवाब भी दे देते. तो उसमें एक अल्लामा इकबाल जी की एक शेर है कि सितारों से आगे जहां और भी हैं, अब इश्क के इम्तिहान और भी हैं. तो वही करने हम आए हुए हैं. तो I just thought.
Only difference is इश्क के बदले में skill replace कर दीजिए.
इश्क भी एक skill होगा शायद.
हाँ शायद.
Daya Bhai is a weaver in Kutch. I'm Kutchi Maru, Prabodh Bhai पर Kutchi जाएंगे. And he's an artisan, and he weaves beautiful hand-woven textiles. They are often paid by the hour. Met once a girl called Shilpa in rural Karnataka, and she would weave a sari every morning before going to school. She would spend a few hours doing that, and at the end of maybe a few weeks, she would get 200 rupees for the sari that would be sold at the 200 rupee in the retail market. I'd spoken to her that why wouldn't you, would you like to do this as a business once you graduate? And she said, never. And I said, beautiful saris. And I said, why not? So she had no positive association of the work she was doing, hand weaving saris every morning, and then going to school. So Daya Bhai is a weaver in Kutch, and he makes beautiful shawls. Last year we teamed up with somebody called Judy Freighter and started an institution called Somaiya Kala Vidya. The idea for her was to provide an education of entrepreneurship to these people, so they understand production, they understand branding, they understand business. I don't think we are anybody to teach them design. We can expose them to what else is happening in the world. But the idea is how can they suddenly become their own brand? How can they take pride in what they're doing? That this is hunar hai to qadar hai. तो कदरदान भी होने चाहिए और हम उनको कैसे बताएं कि ये आप काम करें, ये काम सुंदर है, ये काम बढ़िया है. So the nice thing happened last year is that one of the parents, one of the people who did this course said that I'm also going to enroll my child in this course. And so that was a great child, a great certificate, a college-going child. That's a great certificate to get. And I think that's something that, so again, when you're talking about integrating higher education and vocational education, this is an experiment in which you're trying to teach them branding, production, working capital management, things that they are not used to. And then again, you're trying to integrate this. And so this is some experiment that we've done. Fatima Martin is a Spanish architect working in bamboos. She's got her knowledge from Nagaland, from Uruguay, from Indonesia, and she is now teaching people in rural Madhya Pradesh and Bhopal, where there's a lot of bamboos near the Ratapani sanctuary, as to how you can do this together and bring it into construction. So again, these are very interesting experiments that we are seeing on the ground. My father-in-law, Sri Mistry, Jitendra Mistry, runs a beautiful carpentry workshop where the carpenters do exquisite furniture. And again, the issue is, do we give these people dignity, or do we think that this is a different, kya unka star aur hai? I am a member of, I go to Cornell University, and I was sitting on the managing council of the chemical engineering school, and I met Susan Daniels, who's one of the faculty there, and she introduced me to her husband. And I was sitting on the table, and I asked her husband what he did. And the first thing, I mean, he said, I'm a carpenter. And for a moment, I was, a little taken aback. I'm talking about, I'm confessing here, that, so here she was a PhD in chemical engineering, doing advanced, bioprocess engineering, and she was married to a carpenter. And I thought, this is amazing. And I was not sure whether this kind of match we would see happening in our social circles. So I think it's very important that this kind of dignity be given to our people, to all people, in what they do. She mentioned that I'm in business. We make sugar. I was in a farm in Karnataka about 6 weeks ago. The farmer is a homegrown farmer. He uses nothing purchased in his farm. It is a combination of pesticides and fertilizers that come from gomutra, gobar, and onions, mirchi, jaggery, etc. And he buys nothing from outside. And what he gets is, for the last 8 years running, 2 to 2.5 times the yield of his neighboring farmers, and the farm is much healthier. Now, along with me was a professor of tissue culture and crop agronomy, who says that this is not taught in the universities, in the Harvard Agricultural University, or he came from Tamil Nadu, so it was not taught. And we had a professor from Cornell University who was with me there, and he says that he would be very glad to take this learning and put it into his curriculum at Cornell. So I was just looking at the difference in the knowledge that existed, and in the way that there were two faculty members of different institutions there, one who thought that this is alternative education, and the other one who thought this would be wonderful to integrate into a standard curriculum. So I think it's very important for education to be preserver of knowledge, to transmit knowledge, and then of course to create new knowledge. And when we do this, we should be inclusive of all learning, and we should provide a platform for that learning to find expression in the world around us as we are and as we grow. Talking of skills again, my grandfather was born very poor in rural Maharashtra, but he spoke about 6 languages. We are Kachhis, so Kachhi he spoke, Gujarati he spoke, Marathi he spoke, Hindi he spoke, Marwari, Sanskrit and English. And he got a chance to trade sugar because 2 Marwari brothers wanted somebody who could speak Marathi and English very well, so he could trade with the Gill and Company, which was a company at that time. So when we talk about skilling, I think knowledge of languages is also a skill. And I think we are a multilingual society, but in the way our society is progressing, we see it becoming more and more monolingual. And I think again it's important for us to understand, we all enjoyed Sri Sandhu's Shero Shairi over here. Do we want to see a world many years later in which we say that, again, education has again 2 different classes? That the Gujarati, Hindi or Marathi is not in the education sphere, and in education sphere there's only English. Or are we going to say that our education environment is going to be far more inclusive? Because again, language is a skill. And education is going to people through the medium of language. It's not necessarily that it has to be only through one language. In Pratiksha Nagar, which is a slum in Mumbai, Bhanupriya is a wonderful girl whom we met through our primary health center, who flunked the 12th because she didn't know English well. But she was one of the sharpest girls, and Dr. Shobha Kauli, who runs the center there, said if she had to find any woman who required public health interventions or any man who required public health interventions, Bhanupriya was the girl to use to do that work. We picked her up and put her into our vocational training institution. She's now very well employed. She's graduated and well employed. But my point being that we should also reflect as we think about our higher education programs, or our education programs, as to the place of language in those programs, and whether language is a means to that education or it is a barrier to that education. And given the multilingual society that we are in, we should look at crossing, we should look at moving beyond that. We should look at actually what knowledge it is that we teach. A friend of mine, Stefan, they talk about Germany. Prabodh Bhai just led a trip to Germany. Stefan Reindl runs a utility company in the state of Thuringia in Germany. And he's a very close friend of mine. I brought him to Somaiya Vidya Vihar about 6 months ago. Of all the institutions he visited, he spent the whole day in our vocational training institution. Many people, when they come there, they will spend a lot of time in our business school, they'll spend time in our College of Medicine or Engineering. This guy spent the time in the vocational training institution. I asked him, how come? So he said, I studied through vocational training, and it is through vocational training that I got this opportunity today to be the CEO of this utility company. And in Germany, there's an incredible shortage of skilled workforces because of the aging population. He says, your standards are not up to the mark, he said. You need to upgrade your standards. But if you upgrade them well, and if you teach, back to language, German to your students, then so much of Germany and so much of Europe is open to your young population in the need of opportunity in India and the world. And that was also very interesting what he said. The other thing is the reverse. I mean, isn't everything that we teach a skill? Isn't the teaching of accounting a skill? Isn't the teaching of medicine a skill? Isn't the teaching of engineering, which I am, a skill? I think we should look at all these issues as the imparting of skills. And when we look at that all of these are skills, that's one way in which we'll start looking at all of us equally. That these are equal skills and we all bring something to the table that is equally valuable. No matter how society may value it, but I think we need to look at these as skills. The other thing we want to teach in education is that for each student to get a sense and appreciation for the wider world around them. whether it is an experience to sports, whether it is an experience in learning languages which are not necessarily related to that business. I had this debate in our polytechnic when we were teaching Japanese, Chinese or Sanskrit, and the professor said, one of our governing council members says, no need of teaching Sanskrit, it has no relevance in this business. I said, all education we do is not because it has relevance. It is because education is also to open our minds. And ultimately, students, I think ultimately if students are to appreciate the world, or if we are to become good citizens of the world, then our minds have to be open. And life will change around us all the time. Today, we don't know how the economy is. The IT revolution is upon us. 10 years ago, there was no mobile commerce. Things are changing. Our education should be such that our minds are open so we can also be able to reskill ourselves as the life and the time changes. This is what we're trying to continue to bring in education at Somaiya Vidya Vihar. It's an experiment that we're trying. We really like the way the government has come forward and brought together such an incredible focus into skilled education. I do think that the private sector requires much more freedom, regulatory freedom, to bring so that we can conceive of or we can bring to light a university which teaches education in all its forms, integrated in a very proper way, so that students have a wide exposure then to chart the course they want. Finally, I'd like to end with a quote from the Gita. When Arjun asks Krishna that it's very hard to control your mind, how do you do it? And Krishna replies to him that asamshayam hi mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena tu gruhyate. It is only through abhyas, it is only through the cultivation of dispassion that we'll be able to try and control our minds. And I think in the world around us, again, the controlling of a mind is a skill. And it must also be imparted. And it must be practiced. And we must teach that. Thank you.
I think we take the questions later. Yeah. Ma'am? We've had a lot of out-of-box thinking from Mr. Somaiya. So maybe if you have questions, get your questions also out of the box and into the question box organized, because I think he has a lot to say. I won't summarize now, but let's get on to the principal of this very prestigious KC College, Dr. Manju Nichani.
Thank you, Dr. Rupa Shah, Mr. Samir Somaiya, Mr. Prashant. I must say that from morning, I have really learnt a lot. It's a different kind of an experience when you hear experts speak on the topic. So most of what we had actually prepared has been said. But I would like to give a different perspective, and let me tell you that I'm a sociologist by qualification, so I'm going to give you a sociological perspective to life, to skills. Have you seen that if you look at India, basically, originally, that skills were learnt within the family. There was a barter system. You were a cobbler, you were a tailor, so each one exchanged services, and your occupation was determined from the day of birth. Because if you were a tailor, your son was going to be a tailor, and he learned that skill within home. Slowly but surely, we realized that with Brahmanism coming, certain occupations became on the top, and menial job became low, bringing the cause of untouchability, whereby those occupations people did not want to do. With the British rule coming, they wanted, I'm going fast on that, but only telling you that skills were learnt at home. And everyone had a skill. You have to see that even today the Kashmiri embroidery still lies from family to family and is passed on. So is the Lucknowi embroidery, which means family played a very important role. But with the British rule coming, they wanted clerks, and so they educated our people, which gave them so-called dignity, looking down upon other jobs. So that formal education, a degree or English speaking, became very, very important. Now what happens is how you perceive things. Just I want you to rethink, de-think, learn, relearn, de-learn. But these whole concepts of what we have on what is higher, what is skill, why that skill has to change. What you called a hajam, अरे वो तो हजाम है, यानी कि हमने उसको बेवकूफ की एक टाइटल दी थी. Today he becomes a hairdresser. Today you go to your hairdresser with an appointment. Do you realize that hairdressing is also a skill which you looked down once and today you respect it? What I am putting, look at anything, darji, tailor. Today he is your dress designer. You pay a bomb to get, but who stitches that dress of yours? Not your designer. It's the tailor who stitches. So the tailoring is a very, very important skill which is there. But what I would suggest, that if you give plumbing a title, nobody will be shy to be a plumber. I'll give you a concrete example. I have a young, beautiful girl working with me. I appointed her in unaided courses, and her appointment letter said junior clerk, because that's the first letter we give. After 3 months, she said, you know, ma'am, I enjoy the job, but I want to leave. So I said, but why do you want to leave? She said, you know, all my friends who are working in corporates have better titles, and I feel very shy to say I'm a junior clerk. So I said, what title can I give you? So we had a coordinator for a subject. She says, why don't you give me a co-coordinator? Same job, I called her co-coordinator of BMS, no salary increase, but she was very, very delighted. Now what is very important, that how you look. Why has somebody, Mr. Sandhu said that, you know, you don't want your daughter to marry a plumber or somebody who's, now why you don't want to marry? Because over the years you have looked down upon somebody who's a plumber, but without him you can't survive. You can't survive. So unless we bring dignity to skills, why all these institutions which are on one phone call away giving you so much talent, why is there no demand? Another way to look at it as an academician, that why aren't we, as a university, when we sit at the board of studies, with my due respect to all the corporates, 2 people from the corporate are supposed to be there. They never attend our meetings. Now, if you want a final product which is good, you have to. Then they say that students are not prepared. Students will be prepared if we get from the industry what exactly they need. We at KC, we teach a course on mass media. And we realized that when, I think some of our students are here, when we realized that with the BMM they were not getting much, we started our own skilled courses, very highly professional photography. Many students did, so they were ready for the market with a certificate in photography or in creative writing. Now what we have done, we have stopped people from out-of-box thinking. I mean, we as educationists and we as system are responsible for it. There is no innovation in our teaching. What we do, rote learning, right from the school. When I see these HSC papers being corrected, 92, 93, but what are they doing? Answers are given, questions are given, and the teacher also corrects word. So if anyone has some creative writing, has thought out of the box, is right. To give you an example which is very simple, my niece was 2.5 years and she was going for an interview. She was already in the preschool. So we told her, when your teacher asks you something, you must answer properly. So she asked her, what is your name? And she didn't answer. She other questions she answered, but she didn't answer that question. So I got very upset when she came. I said, why didn't you answer? You know what she told me? She was 2.5. She says, Didi, teacher says Anuradha, I say present. She knows my name. So why is she not thinking? Why are we stopping from, I mean, don't ask questions which they know. And she was 2.5, but the teacher did not like it, that she did not answer. Do you know what we did? We stopped her from thinking what was right. And we do this all the time. If you really want skills, you have to allow people to think out of the box, where marks should not be counted. There should be some other standards where we judge people. You know, we had a BMM where we used to take interview test. I mean, somebody who can write should come in for journalism. But the university put a stop and said, you cannot conduct any test, you will have to follow the mark system. So now with any Tom, Dick and Harry having marks comes into the course and not someone who is really a future journalist. Same thing when we teach BAF, BBI. Now banking is a big factor, a big industry. Insurance is even a bigger industry today. But we teach them technical things. We are not teaching them how to really get into it. Now if Mr. Prabodh Thakkar sits with me and says, look, this is what I really need. Can we conduct a 6-month course for your people? They will be industry ready. We can do it. So let's not blame only the education system. Let there be real integration. Before I really say one thing, that we have spoken about other skills, but where are the soft skills? I never learned soft skills. Nobody, because I came from a joint family where teamwork was taught as a process. Because see, skills are not taught, they are caught. What you see in the family, nobody taught us teamwork. I mean, today you have workshops on teamwork. Today you have workshops on so many things which I wonder why. We have not taught our children to accept failure. Do you realize that what you have done in the whole system is made your children say, I remember I was standing, you know, when the school buses come, parents are standing in the line and there's a lot of gossip among the mothers. So one child got down and her mother carried him. He was 3 years. He was studying in St. Francis in Borivali. There were 60 students in that class. She asked him, how much did you get? He says, 9.5 out of 10. She says, wow, you're a great. Atyare tamne chocolate le aapo. I'll buy you a chocolate. Next minute she asked him, what did Kushal get? He said, Kushal got 10 out of 10. She immediately put him down and said, why did you get half mark less? Now what you have learned in the whole process, that you cannot get half mark less. You have not taught them to accept. And that is why they commit suicide if they don't get. Now these soft skills, which are a part of a huge skill system, are not existing today. One, because the family has broken. You know that question was asked that what is the greatest need of America, and the answer was that they should slow down because they keep on running. They asked them, what is the greatest need of India? And they said the greatest need of India is reverence. Reverence, which was an inborn characteristic of India. You know, we respected even the older neighbor. Today, mothers tell them, even if the Tau or Kaka says, she tells them, who is she to tell you? Now, who is she to tell you has taught you disrespect from the system. Grandparents are not, I'm glad now I find the younger generation having respect. There is a change, but we are teaching soft skills, which should be inherited in them. You have always thought, why are we only job-oriented in corporates or something? One. Secondly, you have to think that if you start paying people more in skilled jobs, what you call as carpentry, you call as plumbing, you pay them well, pay them fixed jobs, they are ready to, and give them social acceptance. As a sociologist, my one concern is that we do not have social acceptance. Kya karta hai? I'm telling you that suddenly what was looked as nachne wali is become an artist. So if all occupations which do not have status today, we give them status, then people will take all the skills with their whole heart and be acceptable. And even the education system itself should have an integral part of some skills that we can, or if that is not possible, the educational institutions must run certificate courses which should be recognized and which should be acceptable by people. Having said that, I may not be wrong if I say that let us not overemphasize only on skills. You have to understand, this is a very crucial point, that you have to understand that pure sciences have to survive. If people talk of computers and they don't know physics, it will not happen. See to it that with skills, critical thinking is also appreciated or allowed or made compulsory. We don't have critical thinking, we don't have innovations. I'll just quote, which is yesterday what I was reading. At the end, I would like to exercise a word of caution towards skills. I recently read an article called, "Our Universities Are Not Teaching Innovation," by Henry Doss and from Forbes Education. The author has rightly said that acquiring skills should not be overemphasized. What we need to teach our students is innovation, how to take risk, how to fail, and how to succeed. I think we have to teach them how to fail, how to succeed. Most of our youth will be changed. Most of our youth have changed jobs 3 times in 10 years. So everything is going to change in next 10 years. As somebody said, 3D will come. The whole technology of 3D is going to change. So again, you have to keep on upgrading your skills. But if you have an analytical mind, and if you have pure sciences, some knowledge, a balance of pure sciences, you will be able to adjust to any technology. So it is necessary that there should be a balance between skills, pure sciences, social sciences, and humanities. Without humanities, without understanding sociology, psychology, you can't understand human beings. And if you can't understand human beings, you can't appoint them. You cannot be a good employer, you cannot be a good employee. So therefore, let skills be an all-round development thing rather than confining it to just a few things. I think with this, I thank you all for listening to me so patiently. Thank you very much.
Develop social skills and become a sociologist. It has the answer for so many things. And most importantly, sir, you probably will suffer the morning session plus the 2 speakers and now you. But sometimes, you know, the last is the derby horse that takes the run. So maybe we can
He's going to have the last word.
I thought that was reserved for us. Mr. Prakash Khambaswadkar. Have I got it correct? Prashant, sorry.
People can't spell Schwarzenegger, so they call him Arnold. If you can't spell Khambaswadkar, you can call me Prashant.
I said Prashant from the beginning.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Thakkar, Bijoy, my good friend, Professor Rupa Shah, Mr. Somaya, and Principal Manju Nichani. When you gave that example of what is your name, I remembered Sholay. Aapka naam kya hai, Basanti? And she rightly answered, Dharmendra, if you think you can take me for a ride, I'll right now take you on a ride to Ramgarh. In fact, you were right, ma'am, when you said that, you know, I will be in a question as to now what to talk. First of all, the morning session was so maverick with the best in our country speaking on the subject of skill development, CSR and education. So the opening batsman was superb. And then the next 2 speakers who are doyens in their education sector spoke so well. When Bijoy told me, Prashant, you have to speak in this panel, and I realized that 3 great educationalists are going to be talking on the subject. My domain is HR, my recognition is HR. And I said, what do I speak? I remembered this gentleman who was asked to speak, and he was not wanting to. And they said, no, 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 you have to come and speak. And then he came with humility, and accordingly he asked the audience, do you know what I'm going to speak on? So the audience said, yes. And then he said, if you all know what I'm going to speak, so I don't need to speak. He goes away. So then these organizers again say, after 6 months, we need to be careful. This guy has to speak. And they call him back, and he says, no, no, no. They say, no, you have to speak. So he comes back again. And again he asks the first question, do you know what am I going to speak? So this time the audience is smart. They said, no, we don't know what you're going to speak. So if you don't know what I'm going to speak, then I don't need to speak. So he goes away. And the organizers are frustrated. And they say, we have to get this guy and we have to pin him down. So another 6 months goes and they invite him again. So he comes again and he says, now what do I do? So the audience is now very, very, very sharp. They said, this guy cannot escape this time. So he again goes with the first question. He says, do you know what am I going to speak? So half of the audience says yes, half of them say no. And they say, abhi dekhte hain ye kahan jata hai. So he says, those of you who know can tell those of who don't know. And he goes off. I don't think so I can escape today because there's no two sides over here. And therefore I'll attempt to showcase a couple of experiences where I had the fortune of getting involved in an exercise wherein CSR, education and skill development were in play. 4 to 5 years ago, I was appointed by the government of Maharashtra on the Sai Baba Sansthan at Shirdi for skill development and to encourage the systems that were prevalent over there. You must have read in the newspapers a lot of things happening about the Sansthan and politicians going to and fro. So after my tenure with HDFC in HR, I floated a company in HR consulting, and therefore they said that you have been consulting small and big organizations on corporate development, so why don't you help the Shirdi Sai Baba Sansthan in improving efficiencies? So again I was in a question, what do I do in a temple? But then the government is government and you need to listen to them. I said, yes sir, I will try to. When I landed over there, the board was looking at me the way I was stunned looking at them. And I said, I want to know what is your problem? Why do you need a consultant? And they said, sir, we are in such a situation that the government of Maharashtra has said that you have enough money. You manage your show. Don't expect anything from us. Forget about money, no expertise. Their international airport plan was approved by the aviation ministry and it was just about to take off. That is the time government of Maharashtra said, you manage your affairs. And they didn't have the expertise. They didn't know how to think. They told me, the 3,000 people that have been employed by the Sansthan, which not only includes the temple management, but they have 4 colleges, 2 hospitals, 8 schools, and 1 place where 50,000 people can sit and eat at one time. 108 Innova cars, so 108 drivers. They said, our problem is, all these 3,000 people who are on the rolls of the Sansthan are completely useless. Is because there is no recruitment policy. Everybody over here is employed because there is a chitti from the chief minister or the talati or the commissioner or the administrative head. So there is no merit. And all of them have come is because this is an easy job. Revenue is automatic. Nobody to question. So the guy in the family who cannot get a job anywhere else is sent to Shirdi. And who can question the talati? Who can question people at Mantralaya? Who can question people who are politicians? All of these guys, if they come together, can you imagine what a chaos it will be? And they said now it is becoming impossible for us to manage is because the crowd is increasing. A small example they gave me that we sell laddus as prasad. Now when you at the counter are selling those laddus, you have to account it also. But if you don't have basic arithmetic skills, how are you going to keep those accounts? A lot of organizations, IT companies specifically, as a part of their CSR, donated computers. But do you have the skill to operate a computer? A lot of politicians have their own security companies, so those people are placed as security, but do they have the competence to deal with devotees in a hospitality manner. They are very rude because they have never been trained. And they said, we are not able to manage the scene. We need skills over here. We want to train these people. I said, you are on the board of the Sansthan. You are the people who are also responsible for this mess. You are more influential than me. If you are not able to manage this mess, do you think I have a magic wand? They said, anyways, you have been appointed, so you have to get it done. Hands up. So I realized that it is the lack of education that has created this mess. Why have these people been posted to Shirdi is because they didn't have formal education. Because they didn't have formal education, there was no job available. Because there was no job available outside, they were posted over here. So therefore the root cause was something that I looked. And hence, I gave a call to the corporates. So we had an HR conference in Shirdi. Bijoy was the keynote speaker at that event in Shirdi. We had the best of organizations coming and speaking over there to get the message through that things are going to change management will come, and this is good for you. On the other side, I invited the education sector. I spoke to the then late Vice Chancellor of the Open University, Yashwantrao Chavan Open University, Krishna Kumar. Unfortunately, he passed away last year due to cancer. I spoke to him and he said, Prashant, what can I do in Shirdi here? I don't know. I said, I have realized a little bit now, so now I can, partner you. And with the help of the education sector, the Yashwantrao Open University, we created a course. Before that, I convinced the Chief Minister that you need to give me a GR, a notice to all the staff of the Sansthan that unless you take up education, you will not be given an increment. You will not be given the perks of free education, free medical services. And because that diktat came from the CM's office, everybody was prepared to go to class. So the Open University put together a syllabus, 2 courses. Those who have not completed 12th standard, they got an opportunity to do a diploma. Diploma in temple management is what we created for those who are going to be graduates. And those who were graduates couldn't become a postgraduate. We created a parallel course to MBA. Instead of Masters in Business Administration, we created Masters in Temple Administration. So 2 courses, and we invited the Education Minister to inaugurate that course. We got TCS to partner us in this initiative to train everybody on basic computer knowledge. And every week there were classes. I am very happy to inform you that this is the 4th year this initiative has been going very successfully. Employees and their families on their own are approaching. This is the 3rd batch that passed out very successfully. Employees and their families have been coming and approaching that we want this course not only for our existing member of the family, but other members of the family also, is because our man who was a useless guy, not only in your Sansthan but at home also, has become very productive, very positive. Is because he or she never had the opportunity to be educated. Now we forced education and created skill with an incentive of you getting an increment after you pass the course. But during this time when they received a lot of information, they appreciated it. And they said that nobody thought of training us. And that's where the corporate, the CSR, the education through the Open University and the Sansthan came together and created a marvel. The other initiative that happened was at Lonavala. You know, these ITIs across India with this 125 crores population with 29 states, we have almost 776 districts. Under these districts, we have around 5,556 talukas. Every taluka has an ITI center. All these years, every ITI has taught only 4 major skills: fitter, welder, electrician and draftsman. Over the years, industry has evolved. Industry has gone into productivity. Nobody needs a separate welder, fitter, electrician. You recruit an operator and he or she is supposed to do everything. So a multi-skilled approach has come, and therefore these people who have been trained in ITIs are without jobs in spite of being trained. So we took an initiative to privatize as many ITI centers as possible in India. The first project was done in Lonavala with the participation of number of companies coming together. So we got Tata Motors, we got the Future Group for retail, we got the Taj Group of companies, and 16 companies participated with their people on the ITI center, and every year 4,560 people from one center pass out with 100% guaranteed jobs. Now we are on a mission of privatizing the employment exchanges. ITIs are supposed to create skills, employment exchange people are supposed to create jobs. Both of them are not doing it. Privatization has made it possible, and that is how jobs which are relevant have been created. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is about you going deep down and working at the grassroots level. Education and industry cannot be separated. It has to be together. The other thing is, we have this foreign mentality in our mind. Unless you don't have a foreign degree, you're not great. Even the Sai Baba Sansthan, they have a lot of money, so it went into their head and they said that, Prashant, you can get a foreign, why are you going to Nasik and getting this Open University, Maharashtra Open University? We'll get somebody from foreign. I don't want to take the gentleman's name. I said, sir, when India got independence, the first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, he invited select members of the military to select the first general of India. And he said, who do you think should be the first general of the military in India? And Nehru said, I don't think so, we have the capability of selecting any one of you. We need to have a Britisher to head the Indian army, because they have the experience. So Mr. Rajput, he stood up and he said, sir, I disagree with you. And he said, India doesn't even have the experience of running this country. Oh, I'm done. So he said, likewise, we don't have the experience of running this country also, so we should have had the first Prime Minister from the British. And he said, and that is how General Cariappa became the first general. So thank you so much for a patient listening. Any questions, I'll be very happy to answer.
What began with the anecdotal method has ended with some more anecdotes. But in a quick survey, I would want to say that basically, I think all the 3 speakers did speak of the problems that we face and the pathways that we should take. So I think the pathways, as our leader from Delhi, she in fact on her matrix was drawn up of what are the pathways that we could take. And here, what the pathways that we have talked about are actuals. They are in the line, in the field, and they know where डूब के जाना है तो कितना डूबना है, कितना सांस लेना है, वैसे क्या करके आगे जाना है. So I feel that the examples that Mr. Somaiya gave of the design specialist and the insistence on he is a designer or she is a designer, and what does she need to polish the product. Ladies and gents wear less of it, but they pay for it. Ladies wear lots of it like diamonds. You've got to polish, facet, and then only does it become a viable commodity to put out in the market. The raw diamond is not valued as much as, of course, amongst women there are many, many ladies, so polkis are there, but even then a diamond is a diamond. So I think it is very, very important that, as Mr. Somaiya said perfectly, that no buying from outside. What doesn't India intrinsically have? Or having someone from abroad to rule us because there's no one having any such experience. So basically, if we have to integrate or standardize our own stuff, at least what the sociologist said was, we would understand better, we would be able to integrate better, use better. We don't need to import. Yoga we all start doing when it gets exported and then we import it. Basmati is very good. So let's not wait for this export system to take place. I think it is most important that we internalize what we have shed. The family system gave way and the servant system came into existence because the servants, the babies needed some looking after. So Amar Chitra Katha replaced grandparents. And I think in our... and cartoons. And I think somewhere we lost this skill building. How many of your or my great-grandmothers or even grandmothers read Peter Drucker? We can all certify none. And yet she brought in all the principles of team building, skill polishing, keeping all the daughters-in-law, all the sons under not right control but as and when. So I think skills were born into us. The man or the husband never interfered about the home. The compartments were divided. Today we as women have come out of the home. But I don't think any woman here is happy to say कि हम घर छोड़ के आए, यानी एक कुंडी में पैक करके चाबी खो जाए. We still have the home. So if we have, as women have been able to grow into our skills dually, what are the skills that we want to grow into? And pure sciences, as he has rightly said, Dr. Alexander, when IT education was coming in, as the Chancellor of all the universities, had said, I'm giving a reference to the language skill, he used to say, his sentence was, are we teaching through IT or are we teaching IT? Such a subtle difference. So today I think that's where our skill making, skill taking, skill exercising, skill implementing aspect needs to come in. Not only that, but we also see, I'll just give you one example of how skills cannot be cut, they have to be caught, as she said. There was one railway employee, usko ticketing ke counter pe rakha tha. This is a fact, huh? Jodhpur mein ye hua hai, fir usko Bombay mein leke aaye the wo log. And he escalated as he took the exams and whatever. But everyone knew that he had the best home in Jodhpur, he had the best furniture, and कि साला वो पैसा लाता कहाँ से है? Ticketing में क्या पैसा मिलेगा? अरे ticketing में ही तो पैसा मिलता है. So anyway, the heads decided move him. Okay, they moved him. Bombay station पे उसको कौन सा job दिया गया? He was kept at his cadre, his salary, everything was fine. He had the job of an announcement on one of our major stations at VT, where he only had to announce trains, warn them that this train is late, this train is coming on the track, so please keep the tracks free, move out, things like that. But yet, Saabjada Saab kam nahi the. He started advising people कि the coolies can carry this much luggage, they cannot, you have to pay them more, don't pay them, don't pay them more, you have to pay them this, that and the other. And you know what happened after 6 months? The coolies union went to him and said, we will pay you, but you stop talking of what we have to give. About what, how much you're going to pay the coolie, how large should your bag be before you give it to the coolie, this would be the rate. Wo bolna band kar. So skill, you know, money making is also a skill. But basically what I feel is that we need now, I think we all who are dealing in education, I won't say that we are, as teachers, we are educationists. When I asked someone, I said, are you teaching somewhere? Because I was told that. And she said, yes, I attempt to teach. I don't know how much the students take in. I mean, we all laughed at it, but I think it was a very serious statement for a teacher to make. I don't know how much they... What is your responsibility? Is to impart and get it beyond them, get it into them. I've read the book, but has the book gone through me? Or I've gone through the book. So friends, this is the time where industry really needs to step in, and each industry, and I think this is where the IMC can become a very, very active body and probably be the lead body, the lead commerce chamber. Let each industry of each of them say, we need so many people. I won't name which IMC member it was, but he from open platform says, I need 2,000 workers and I'm not getting them. So many of them say, included. So if this is the situation, then IMC must draw up a matrixed form as to in your industry, how many vacancies are there, what are the areas, and let them give a job analysis of how this person should be qualified to fill in their vacancies. Let them give the syllabus along with teachers. And once that kind of job analysis is done, your product is on a conveyor belt. Conveyor belt technology is gone, forgotten, nobody remembers it now. But maybe we need to reinvent it, that such a product has a vacancy of placements here. Management institutes are known by the placements they give. And if the placements are good, then teaching must be good, teachers must be good. So coming down to teachers, if the IMC does this, brings up for electricals, for all the industries that are in the membership I would call it a consortium, and jobs are shown where we need, what kind of people we need, advertisements can be given by the firm, recruiting for this month, this much course. But we need teachers for that, as Mr. Sandhu said. So maybe a major area that needs to be taken up is training of teachers. I think when she and I went into a classroom, we were never given any form of pedagogy. We were never taught how to teach. We were given the contents, and that's it, left like loose herds. When we became principals, I don't think we were taught how to become a principal, except you read all the rules. You have a UGC as your master, AICT, whatever you do. And then when you become a vice chancellor too, there is no school for them. There is no course for them. So we have all talked of formalizing our skill in education. Let us do that. And I sincerely wish that industries come forth and say, this is our requirement, we need 100 people here, fine. We will train, you take the top qualifying people, the bottom lot will find their own, let the water seek its level. So industry now needs to come forward and say, this is what I want, and some of them are doing it. L&T has its own course. Hiranandani has its own course. We also have, I think Mr. Kilachan is going to talk about the other model, so I'm not going to trespass on that. But there are industries that have started having their own training programs, and the shortchanging that is taking place because I need training, I'm educated. qualified, not even educated. But I will be taken as a trainee. Now, when I'm taken as a trainee, who is shortchanged? I don't have the skills required, so I'm not paid the amount that I should be with my qualifications. I'm also shortchanging the company by not offering my 100% skills. So, as it was said on the dais, why can't we bring people who can get straight? IAS people, they're transferred how many times? And they can't say, I need reading time for 3 files to be read or 30 files to be read. They've got to be on the job right there. What jobs are done, we all are reading about it in the newspapers. I don't have to describe it. But ICS, IAS were cadres that developed skills instantly because they had the basic intellect. So I personally feel that if the product needs to be pushed up, if the product needs to be sellable, the product has to be good. Who has to make that product good? So, friends, I leave the questions to the House. Questions? We'll time it. Maybe we'll time it or wait until the minister comes. No. Oh, okay, fine. A few questions. Could the mic be reached to him? Yes. Ma'am?
Hello. Yeah. I want to bring little difference to what we have been talking. There is an article by Mr. Satyarthi in the paper yesterday, Economic Times, and he has made a very valid point. But before that, let me say I have 2 gurus sitting over here. I did my first year arts in Somaiya College, and I had a privilege to be a leadership person, and I was in KC College, junior BA and law college. So 2 of my gurus are sitting here. He has written a very valid point. Probably we can look at it. He said right to information has been made compulsory. How much is happening we'll leave aside. After 14 to 18, Juvenile Act, again question mark, that's the time where we have a dropout highest rates.
Right.
And therefore what some of the earlier speakers said, that people go back, they don't want to study, is that 4 years take away the whole interest in anything in life. So if we want to bring in back the skill development and all those things, we really need to side-by-side focus on how we bring those 14 to 18 back to education. That's point number 1. And the second point is, which Shah Madam said it very well, is the entire this exercise should bring in a quotient of social recognition to all what we are doing. And it should begin from the trainers. The trainers should respect what they are doing.
Please tell them to move
Right.
the question.
Madam, do you have a question?
No, this,
It was a statement.
are we
Fine.
going to do it? Okay, I'll convert it into a question.
Right.
So can we do it? Should we do it?
Can we do it? I think we're all responsible for it together. I don't think it is any one person's responsibility. I mean, in the sense of either management or the college processing or the HR people who are recruiting. But it'll have to be a contagious disease of promoting skill. And if someone finds the vaccine, I think we're all happy to use it.
Thank
Next
you.
question was coming up here. Someone?
Good afternoon. My name is Sandeep Vichare. I have been associated with skill development at grassroots level since 2009. I have been fortunate to be a part of the PMO project affirmative actions, which was the flagship project
Yes.
of PMO and CI. Most of us may be aware about it. Eventually, this is close to more than 5 to 6 years, and the skill development, all the concepts have been evolved. Now the government has being very with the prime agendas. The experience I have shared that the education system, how the education system let's not talk about the policies and regulations as of now, because those are yet to be evolved, but how the education systems or the educationists for that matter are working on the assessment part of the candidates or student for what he will be interested in or eligible. As rightly mentioned by somebody in the earlier conversation, that in the Germany there are systems that after 10th they are being counseled, and then because we have been following the society, the education system have been following that everyone, somebody is getting some good marks, so he has to go compulsory to the science stream. Somebody is not getting good marks in the 10th, he has to go for the arts.
Yes, sir.
Rather, let me
we
complete.
appreciate that.
Let me
yes.
complete. Let me complete. But we have not yet understood that not every person has to become an engineer, not every person has to become a doctor, which is not possible. I feel that this assessment of inclination and the need
Sir,
for
we-
impartment of skill
Right, but
needs
we-
to take place at the educational school level itself, probably beginning from the 8th standard and then eventually cycles of
No, but
maybe
I
periodically.
think, no, sir. I think
The question is-
Mr. Rajan, yeah, the question
The
is,
question is, as a educationist, how we are, the organizations, individuals are contributing. This is a very root cause, a root reason of the further journey. Thank you very much.
thank you. But I think Mr. Bhatnagar and Mr. Sandhu both did talk of the standardization and the criteria that we would be requiring, and how a massive change in that, along with the psychological or the mental set change, if both these go hand in hand, I think that would answer your question. Any
Hello.
other? Please place your questions primarily and not the opinions. Sir, ma'am.
Good afternoon. There's a question mark in my mind. The point well said by Mr. Sandhu some time ago, it was "Kahan gaye wo log, gela madhav kuni kare," and the same point you have touched upon is about, as if it looks very simple. I mean, industry needs people, industry doesn't have skilled people. The thing is, the question mark is about the intention. Whether we really need skilled people and whether we are ready to pay them what they are supposed to be getting. Because there is a large-scale exploitative practice of hiring contract labor. And contract labor is the disease. It is really going to be a social time bomb in this country. I've had 24 years in the corporate career in HR admin, and much of it has been at the factories. And I've seen this is a common issue, whether the employers are honestly, they are in the right mind frame for the nation building. Because here, it's, as people learn the skills at the family level, here on the shop floor, people are basically taken as unskilled people. They catch the skill on the job, they perform better than the permanent workers, okay, and still they are looked down upon, they are paid sometimes even not the minimum wages. So this is a big question mark, and unless this is addressed, nothing is going to change.
That's quite a fatalistic view. But I won't say it's a pessimistic view, because if we have identified an area which needs change, that in itself, the discovery itself becomes very important. So I feel that maybe this would be a major area that we do need to look into, particularly as you say that this concept of the permanent workers looking down upon probably the better part-time workers or the better support staff, as they are often called. But maybe, sir, we do need to look into this. I appreciate the concept. Someone here?
Yeah. Ma'am. I'm Ruchi. I work with Om Creations, an NGO which works with Down syndrome and autistic children. We have livelihood generation and we have art and food departments, etc. So my question is a little it's going to give you a sort of a jolt, because how would Somaya or KC College or other colleges would actually, how would you come up with neo-age carpenters or neo-age plumbers in your college, We have engineers, you have art, schools, etc. So how about the children who are actually studying in your college? And also the holistic education, because I meet a lot of engineers, etc. They come out of college, but they don't really have jobs. They cannot survive, right? They all, I mean, of course, there is a placement center in the college, etc. But this is a critical question. I was really, really inspired by a talk, I must say, especially the examples you've taken, but I still don't have my answer. So this is, and we work with the disabled, right? The autistic and Down syndrome children. They're treated as third-class citizens, literally. We give them jobs, etc. But you go to a normal college, you go to any other college, they don't get jobs, or they don't even get dignity. So this is just a serious question. I mean, there are two questions there.
Let the maker.
We have a complete session based on your questions and queries, madam. So if you would wait till the end of the day, perhaps you would get some answers to what you're seeking.
Prashant would like to give a short answer for the contract labor problem. So we're going back a bit since we have a full session on this. Otherwise, I'm sure both of them would have quite a bit to contribute.
So your question on contract labor, you are an HR professional. You must be aware of the Contract Abolition and Regulation Act. And if you go through the whole thing, the central and the state, you will see that there is no mention of abolition in the entire sections that are mentioned, although it's a Contract Abolition Act. However, the government itself is grappling with this question whether to abolish or no. You abolish and you will create a lot of social problems. It's because there's no employment. At least through contract labor you're getting the employment. Lakhs of people. The other thing is many industries are seasonal. So they require contract labor, they cannot survive otherwise. The third and most important thing in the 25 years that I've invested in HR, and companies like Tata Steel, Johnson & Johnson and in HDFC, my experience has been right from the shop floor. You employ a contract labor and as you rightly said, it works fantastically, better than any permanent worker. The moment you make him permanent, his productivity dips. And the union does not allow him to be sacked. I think this is something that we need to tackle as professionals to ensure that employment is guaranteed. However, continuity is not guaranteed. There is nothing permanent. You and me might be having a permanent letter, but we don't perform for the next 2 quarters and we will be handed the pink slip. So I think the days of permanency are done, whether it is at the worker or at the vice president level. You come, you perform, or you perish. So contract labor is going to turn into contract executive now, very, very soon in India.
I would just want to add that the teaching fraternity in the West follows this publish or perish. If you're not onto publications, if you're not onto research, you know your future, when the pink slip will come to you. So permanency in the teaching fraternity abroad is not as guaranteed as it is in the industry. And that maybe brings in more efficiency, brings in the right values and the right concepts. Friends, we have overcrossed once more even our own session. So my apologies for the delay, and if you've got something happening inside your stomach, it's rightly happening, so don't let the rats run too much. And we need to get back to the... Continue?
I'm sure everybody is waiting to go and have lunch. So, let's finish thanking our experts here and then proceed for our lunch. I'm inviting the President IMC, Mr. Prabodh Thakkar, to please come and give mementos to our experts here. Please be seated.
That's how Indians become mic holders.
Madam Rupa Shah.
Madam Rupa Shah.
Mr. Samir Somaya. Madam Manju Nachani. And Mr. Prashant Khambaswatkar. Before we disperse for lunch, there is a short announcement. Please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, I won't come and stand between you and your lunch, but a very important duty that IMC has committed and we would like to perform. We were waiting for Honorable Minister to come, but he's stuck with Chief Minister. That's the latest news. He has still not said no, but there is a skill in waiting and not waiting. So we have decided not to wait for him. So here is an example, and I spoke a bit about it in the morning, that there is a young doctor who just passed his exam. And any doctor is within his right to work and live for his bread and pursue his career. But here is a young man among ourselves today, right now, who did something very unique. And we all as an Indian, as a Mumbaikar, very proud of him. And this is something that I would like to read what he did. And that made an impact on several lives. Now that cannot be measured. It was 10, 20, 50, because in that all chaos what he did, nobody knows, had he not done what he did, what would have been an impact. So here is the short introduction about him. A young doctor who lives next to Sayyidna Muhammad Burhanuddin's at Malabar Hill Bungalow. You know that Bori community have their own Dharma Guru. Is called Sayyidna Ji. He passed away, I think, he's lived for more than 100 years. And he just passed away. On that day, he saved 24 lives early on 18 January 2014 after a stampede broke out amongst the late spiritual leaders that followers desperate to get a last glimpse to him. Dr. Anichit Bhatnagar, 26, who lives next to Sayyidna's bungalow, had just returned to his apartment in Hill Park at midnight when this chaos erupted. Scores of mounds, including women and children, were being pushed and trampled near Saifi Mahal, where the Dawoodi Bohra leader's body was kept for viewing, but there was no paramedics to treat the injured. Dr. Bhatnagar, an MBBS with just 8 months of professional experience, then mounted a solo effort to provide a solo effort. There was nobody, no police, no help. Nobody told him to do what he wanted to do. And imagine there is a stampede going on around you with a lot of people with a lot of beards, angry, emotionally charged, a young man. So he decided to do something. And people were running on each other. There were children, there were old women, there were old people. And they were all pushing each other in different directions. And if you know that place, it's like a triangular. There was hardly a space to move around. Except that there was adjacent to that is a Mahanagar Telephone Nigam, Malabar Hill Telephone Exchange. Telephones are now not seen, but the exchange all over Mumbai are still seen, MTNL, you know. So that gate was closed to add the inconvenience. So he isolated the injured from the crowd by taking them inside his building and performed cardiopulmonary no, CPR, I think it's medically very difficult for me to pronounce, on victims who had fainted because of the suffocating conditions. He even got water and glucose powder from his home for those who were suffering from this dehydration. There were little else he could do, as the medical stores in the area were closed and it was impossible to get help from outside because of the road leading to Saifi Mahal was packed with thousands of monks. It's a very narrow lane, even barely 2 cars can pass. We salute this young Marico who have carved a space for himself as a role model for the needy. Can I please request Anuchet Bhatnagar to please come forward, and what I would like, instead of minister, those who elected the ministers, all the 4 eminent personalities here would jointly honor and recognize this young man. Please come forward. Would mom and dad would like to come forward? Come, have a picture. Come forward.
You must be the proudest.
Yeah. I would also invite their mom and dad to please come, the proud mother and father to please come forward. Thank you. When you go for lunch, please keep in mind no stampede. Thank you.